I actually truly love that song. The theme of it, of course, is a bit of my mantra in life, which is just relax. Relax, and of course, don't do it. For those who aren't aware, actually, do it. But anyway, for those of you who aren't aware, when the song first came out, by the way, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, who sang that, said that the song was actually about motivation. It was all about culture and people's personalities. They did that so it wouldn't get banned from the BBC. The real reason was actually about bonking, but that's a whole different story. So anyway. So I have a few minutes here. I will be candid. I struggled a bit with this topic, and I struggled a bit with the topic of standing your ground because for a start, my journalism career was in tabloid journalism in Australia, which was basically based on never let facts get in the way of a good story. So I actually was raised, you would say, on a business career of fake news. So I apologize for my impact all those years later. But like I said, I struggled because, I didn't, in my career, I didn't quit a tobacco company or tell a CEO to shove their job. I wasn't like the character, those who've ever read Patrick Lencioni's book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, who the sales manager who decided he wasn't right for the executive team of the company, so he quit. I kind of envy the fact that he obviously didn't have a mortgage or a kid to put through college or any other thing like that, but okay, whatever. But I do want to share a bit of perspective about communication and as just an underlying message to a bit of a personal experience. Now, one of the things I always get told is, of course I get warned in, I warned poor Jessica before, after she spoke, political correctness, unfortunately, is not necessarily one of my fortes. And of course, they say never talk politics, never talk religion. But I will. And this is the point where I look at my lovely longtime colleague and friend Laurie Dawkins, who spoke so eloquently here last year, who's looking at me and going, oh, shit, what's he going to say now? So I promise I'll be good. So, when I grew up, this story actually involves a little bit of an experience with religion. So no disrespect meant when I tell this story to anybody in terms of religious beliefs. But I grew up in a non-religious household. In fact, the only time I ever heard the word God was usually when my mother, who is and still alive today, a very left-leaning political advocate in Australia, would look at the TV or listen to the radio and hear things. Whenever the Liberal or National Country Party in Australia would come on, it would be like, "Oh, good God, that's rubbish. Oh God, oh this." That was the only time I heard the word God in our household was, "Oh God, those idiots. Oh God, what are they doing?" Whatever. So. But anyway, so a few years ago, and I'm fairly new to Canada, and I'm living in Edmonton in these days, and I'm at home, and I get a knock on the door. Okay, so fine, trot down. And standing in front of the door are 2 very lovely young ladies, well-dressed and so on, as you'd appreciate. And good afternoon, sir. Hi, how are you? I'm very good, how are you? And as you might imagine, this is what these are 2 lovely young ladies who are here to say, we want to share the teachings and learnings of Christ with you. They are Jehovah's Witnesses. They are what I will call the sales and marketing team of Jehovah's Witnesses, because clearly that's kind of what they're there to do. Okay, so, and even though I'm a great believer, okay, listen, be respectful, fine. And so they're talking to me about, their beliefs and what it is and how that might impact my life and the events in the world. And I'm kind of having a very polite conversation, as I even do today when I still have visits by the Jehovah's Witnesses who come to my door. And anyway, this is all going fine for a few minutes. Yep, okay, fine. And then one says, of course, and they're obviously a little nervous and quite young, well, of course, and I said, well, there's a lot of conflict in the world today. This is in the early to mid-90s with the Middle East crisis and all those things going on, the Iraqi war. So she said, well, of course, the issue really is, sir, that, ours is the only true God. And, of course, if the world was to follow, and at that point, again, no offense, I said, excuse me, sorry, what was it? Oh, yes, well, ours is the only true God. And if the world would follow our teachings, then it will all be fine. So I said, so without being horrible, does this mean, of course, that the Buddhists haven't quite got it right, and the Islamic haven't got it right? And well, no, I'm just asking. Well, but ours is. And they went back to their the teaching of. Yeah, I understand that. So we had this bit of a conversation, and after a couple of minutes, it became fairly clear that they really were struggling a bit. I was being respectful with the answer to the question. And okay, fine. So we kind of left it at that, and that really gets to me to the key point of my message for us as communicators is that they were out as sales and marketing people, or even internal, shall we say, corporate customer communications people do. They were sharing their message. This is the message. This is what is right. But they didn't necessarily have the background to back it up. They couldn't really defend the argument they were making. So my point really to leave as communicators is a key part of our role is to make sure that when we're going to make statements, if we are the best at something, or this is the greatest of this, or the first of that, make sure we've actually asked the question. We have a responsibility to ask the question of who says? Why is that? Help me understand that, because if I'm going to share that message with others, I need to believe that and I need to understand that. And we as communicators have a responsibility to share that truth and share it in a way that we believe it and know it. Now, I am a great believer that you don't have to necessarily believe in what it is you are communicating. You don't have to be a smoker to work for a tobacco company. You don't have to, wallow in baths of oil, which I constantly drop all over the place from an old car, to, of course, work for an oil company. But you do have to believe as a communicator in what you say. And that is my underlying message for us in terms of standing our ground is always question, always ask, and always believe in what we say when we say it, because that is our responsibility. And just finally, to come back to the Jehovah's Witness scenario. So the young ladies had left. And a couple of weeks later, I get another knock on the door. The two lovely young ladies are standing in front of me again. Hi, how are you? Oh, good. How's it going? And then suddenly, off to the side, a much more older, well-dressed, respectable gent comes. And he comes out and says, "Good morning, sir. So I understand you have some questions about the teachings of Christ." So basically, even the Jehovah's Witness have an issues management team.